Well, if you've been with us for any amount of time, you will know that we're spending just 3 weeks thinking about the fact that we celebrate 75 years of being a church in Salford. Began in 1950. We told the story last week a little bit about how God had blessed us in the past with what he'd done. And what I want to do is just take a few moments. I wonder if you can just push me forward, Charlie. Can you just push it onto that's it. On the signposts for a future. So last week we looked back, and this week I want us to look into the future. Everybody is uncertain about the future, inevitably, because we've not yet been there. And so every act of walking into the future is an act of faith. Uncertain about exactly how things will be, uncertain about what will happen, but certain as Christians about who walks with us. That God walks with us into his future with his wisdom. But I think he leaves kind of like signposts or mile markers that give us a sense of what's our role to play as we walk into this unknown future. Next week, we will celebrate. Was that you? I kind of felt myself getting sort of like drawn in to that hiccup. Next Sunday, we're going to celebrate God's faithfulness to us over the years. But I want to just spend a few moments looking forward into a future that we have not yet encountered, but which God calls us to be a part of. We're going to start by hearing a parable you know really well, and Yvonne's going to come and read that for us. So Yvonne, do you want to come and read the parable? It's Matthew 13. As I say, you'll know it well.
Okay, so Matthew 13, 1-9. That same day, Jesus went out of the house and sat by the lake. Such large crowds gathered around him that he got into the boat and sat in it, while all the people stood on the shore. Then he told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell on the path, and the birds came along and ate it. Some fell on rocky places, where it did not have much soil, because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seeds fell among the thorns, which grew up and choked all the plants. Still the other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop, 100, 60, 30 times what was sown. He who has ears, let him hear. And then 18. Listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anybody hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches it away, what was sown in his heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The one who received the seed that fell on rocky places is the man who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. But since he has no root, he lasts only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, he quickly falls away. The one who received the seed that fell among the thorns is the man who hears the word, but worries of this life and deceitfulness of wealth choke it, making it unfruitful. But the one who received the seed that fell on good soil is the man who hears the word and understands it. He produces a crop yielding 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown.
Brilliant, thank you. Well, as I said, if you've been around in church at all, it's a parable you know really well. Parable of the sower. And Jesus using an everyday story, an everyday picture about a new world that might be possible, about the kingdom of God coming, about God breaking in and making all the difference in the world. And in a tired and broken world, that the new world was possible. Let me tell you another story, another parable, if you will. You might know this face. His name is Michael Sheen. He's an actor, a Welsh actor, but he's been in loads of stuff. He's a brilliant, brilliant actor. But he's absolutely committed to Port Talbot. It's his town. It's where he was born. It's his place. And he's done so much in South Wales for folks down there. Late last year, he heard that the people of South Wales owed £1 million in debt. Now, this is a world that most of us don't really belong to, but there's a very strange aspect about debt, and it's this. If you owe your money to a certain company, that company will sell your debt to someone else who will buy it. And then it becomes their responsibility to try and get the money back. But the really interesting thing is that the people who buy it for nowhere near what the debt was. So a whole 900 households owed £1 million. But a company bought it for £100,000. And Michael Sheen bought a company and paid £100,000 for the debt of 900 people and then cancelled the debt. Isn't that a brilliant story? Don't you wish you lived in South Wales and you'd taken out a loan? Isn't that a brilliant story? An actor who used what he had in his hand to make a difference because he knew that another world was possible. It's a brilliant parable. The sower, an actor. And I don't want to speak for very long. It's not going to take me ages to say what I want to say this morning. But I just want to tell you that together, when we look at the future, when we look at the future of the church, when we look at the future of our own lives, we have been given seed. We carry in our hands something that can make all the difference in the world. How does God's future come into being? Well, there's a sower and he has seed. And the sower and the seed look really quite powerless, except the sower has complete faith in the seed. Now, most of us, pretty much all of us, we're industrial. As Susie said, we live with high-rise blocks all around us. We're used to offices much more than we're used to farms. But all of us can understand how it feels to go into a big empty field and see nothing but what you've got in your hand or in your seed drilling equipment. I am at the absolute edge of my knowledge now. You sow believing that this seed will make all the difference in the world. The thing you're confident about is the seed you've been given. You know you're not in charge of the future. If you're a farmer, you're not in charge of the weather. You're not in charge of blight or stuff that makes the harvest fail. I ought to pay more attention to Countryfile. You're not in charge of any of that stuff. But you've got seed that you trust. 3 things I want to say about the seed and the sower. Every sower holds the future in their hands. The seed is the beginning of a future. What have we been given? What have we been given as a church? What are we being given? And how will we use what we have? Jesus seemed to love to tell parables about seed and growth and harvest. And one of the parables he told once was about a person who was given so much, but he was frightened that he might lose it all, so he hid it. I might lose this, so let me hold on to it. I think what God seems to bless is faithful people who are ready to take risks on a future they have not yet seen. What have we been given? Well, you know as well as I do what we've been given. Fundamentally, what we've been given is the Spirit who's at work in people. That's what we've been given. We don't have our own building. We don't have stacks of money. We don't have any power. We don't have much reputation, but what we've been given is Spirit-filled people. What might the future hold? What might the future hold when we're not frightened of loss? What might the future hold when we're not frightened of taking a risk? What are we willing to do to say, let's give it a go? What's the worst that can happen? Every sower holds the future in their hand. Every time you give, whether you give by standing order or whether you give in the offering basket, you invest in a future that you are not in control of. I've asked permission to tell this next story, and it was granted. But this week, I had a meeting with some folks with Anne Salter and a solicitor. This is a little embarrassing for me to say about Anne, but let me tell you anyway, because it perfectly illustrates what I'm talking about. Anne has been part of this church longer than I have. There's one or two people that have. There's some really old people around. Anne was here before I came. As was Joan Northall. She's equally old. Joan, one or two others. No, Shirley came. I remember Shirley coming. But anyway, Anne decided some time ago that what she wanted to do was to use the assets she has in her will to make a difference for the next generation. So what she's doing, with help, is setting up a charity that will mean that every young person in our church under the age of 25 will be able to ask for financial assistance for ministry, training, or mission. And what we're hoping is we're going to be able to set this up so that it's in perpetuity. So in other words, decades down the line, when all of us are forgotten, the young people in this church will be able to have financial assistance for mission, ministry, and training. That is a brilliant use. It's a brilliant use of a resource. But actually what it's brilliant at is saying, I believe in the future. I have seed, and I'm believing and holding a future in my hand. Now, we can't all do that, though if all of us would like to, we kind of know how to do it now. We can't all do that. But we've all got seed. What are you going to do with yours? Second thing, every sower faces disappointment. The parable of the sower is a parable where 3/4 of the seed doesn't actually do what the sower really hoped would happen. There would be, Jesus said, some people would receive the seed of the kingdom, and the evil one would snatch it away. Some people would receive it, and they'd receive it really well, and then when trouble or pressure came upon them, they would fall away. And other people, when the fears of this world or the deceitfulness or the worries come, then they give up. Every sower faces disappointment. So 2 things. Firstly, expect it. Expect it. And just because we might face disappointment, because we might try some stuff, because we might see some people who go for it and then fall away, we don't say to one another, well, it's not working. We just go, well, we expected that. Jesus said that. But the second thing about the disappointment is learn from the faithful. The faithful don't stop when the seed looks like it's not achieved what we hoped. And secondly, don't be the disappointment. Don't be the ones who, when the pressure comes, go, I'm giving up. Don't be the ones who allow the worries to overtake you to such an extent that you go, I don't think it's worthwhile. Every sower expects and faces disappointment. Don't be surprised. Third thing, every sower believes for growth. We don't know where the growth will come from, nor how much it will be. Jesus said, the sower sows and there's fruitfulness, 30-fold, 60-fold, 100-fold. But you sow believing that it will grow. Why do you appoint someone for the next generation? Because you believe growth will happen. That's why you do it. Because you go, we don't buy into the belief that kids are not interested. We don't buy into the belief that every teenager will always walk away from the church. We don't buy into the narrative that everybody under the age of 25 is too busy being out, not interested in Jesus. We believe in growth. And so we sow and invest into a future that we cannot yet see, but we believe for growth. We're in a growing church. We were chatting the other day and realized that since 2021, we've pretty much doubled in size as a church. That's quite a lot. Those of you that were with us in Holy Angels, in a very much smaller church building, it was lovely because we were so close. You could smell the perspiration of the person next to you. It was lovely, except in summer. It was lovely because we were tightly packed together and you could talk across and it was great. You could heckle and everybody could hear. And they did. But we were pot-bound. We couldn't grow. And then we came here and we could. And God has given us the growth. We moved here to a building that has more uncomfortable chairs than at Holy Angels. That is colder than it was in Holy Angels. But we did it because we knew we wanted to grow. That's the only reason we did it. You sow believing that growth will happen. And then you have to make a decision about what you're going to do with it. We need strategies for the future. We need to think about how we contain and build on growth that happens. Talked about Susie's appointment, but maybe in years to come, we'll think we need new congregations. We might need new places. We certainly will need new generations. There will be growth. The kingdom grows. So we walk into a future, not with a big plan. I'm not that sort of leader. None of our leaders are that sort of leader. We've never had targets. We've never had, we're going to be this next year. What we've had are people who go, we'll keep on trusting that God will lead us forward. And then we'll work out what on earth and how on earth we're going to respond to what God does. I came across this quote ages ago, and I don't often put stuff on Facebook, but I did put it on Facebook. And then you remember, when they say, do you remember? It came up the other week, and I thought this would fit. We have a story of faithfulness to share, not a plan to execute. We have a story of faithfulness to share, not a plan to execute. We have the resources of our God and King and our community of gospel partners. We're part of God's mission to go into the world to see his glory displayed and lives transformed, not to win a competition of our own making. Our mission is about generations to come, not the next quarter in our church's annual planning. We are planning for generations. For the kids that are in creche this morning. Not just what we're going to do next year. The thought of generations then led me to another thought. And this is my final thought. They're all over at the moment, aren't they? If you walk through the park, they're there. This is what I want to leave you with. The seed of the gospel has been given to each one of you. You don't need to express it in the same way. It's not about being a clone. It's actually about receiving the kingdom. You and I were offered an invitation to be part of a different world, a better world, another world. And the moment you said yes to Jesus, or if you will say yes to Jesus and make him your Lord, he will invite you to be part of that kingdom, and through you the kingdom will grow. You will make a difference in families. You will make a difference in workplaces. You will make a difference in and through your life. It won't have been for nothing. You and I were given the seed of the kingdom. And for some of us, it's like, yes, I'm going to go with it. And for others, you know and I know that sometimes the worries and the pressures get too much and we back off. The seed is always worth holding on to, because the seed makes a new world possible. In a moment or two, we're going to take communion. And we're going to give you three things. We're going to give you bread and juice that refers back to an event 2,000 years ago or thereabouts that changed the world. The death and resurrection of Jesus is the historical fact that changed everything. And when you and I are offered bread and juice to say, this is my body, this is my blood, given for you, you and I are invited to take it, and we recognize that we're part of the disciple group of Jesus. And secondly, we recognize that our sins have been forgiven, no longer held against us, open with God, free from condemnation, free to walk in the presence of God. And we will invite you to take that. And some of you will go, I don't know if I'm good enough. And if I were able to say it as gently as I could face to face, I'd essentially say this: that's the point. If you were good enough, you wouldn't need it. None of us are good enough, but we come and we receive the grace and salvation that's given to us through Jesus. Come and receive the bread and the cup. The third thing that I'm going to give you, I'll give you the chance, and you, of course, you're free not to take it, is an acorn. And it's a symbol. It's a symbol of all that's been sowed into your life by God. And the thing about acorns, and the cliche about acorns, is from small acorns, mighty oaks grow. The thing about oak trees is that they're generational. And my urge to you as you take an acorn is, what are you planting for the generations to come? Every time you pray for your family, you're praying a generational change. Every time you go to work and you determine, I'm going to work for the kingdom here, not just for my pay, it's a generational change. You that are teachers, of all people, are in generation work. And as you pray for your classes, you of all people are the people who are going, this family, this person, whatever the past has been, their future can be different. And you take an acorn, and you might just end up leaving it in your pocket. And it might be that a few weeks from now, you put your hand in your pocket again of your coat, and you go, oh, yeah. I'm planting seeds for generations. Or it might be you just go and chuck it on the grass outside. And who but knows that in 100 years' time, they'll go, I don't know who put that oak tree there. But I invite you to take something from the past, bread and wine, and something for the future. And as you do so, give thanks that you're free and pray that God will lead you into a future you do not yet know.